Hello all, I'm Colette here today from Witch Ways, and I want to talk to you about herbal magic. I'm going to give you an overview of how to use it in your practice, some different blends and recipes that I use, as well as going over the magical properties of some of my favorite magical herbs. I hope you find something here to inspire you today. Enjoy! People have used herbs for magic since the very beginning of time. In fact, getting to know a plant, understanding its properties as food, as medicine, for healing the spirit, for spiritual uses, was seen as a kind of magic in and of itself. Often those weren't seen as separate functions. They were just seen as part of the personality or nature of the plant. Early on, our ancestors all had some intuitive ability to communicate directly with plants or to discern their uses. Some of that was probably genetic memory passed down. Some of that was trial and error. However, there are some things that we know about plants and some uses that people put them to that could only have been found out through direct communication from the plants or from the spirit world. But even today, all of us still have some ability to communicate directly with plants, and that is something that can be developed. I feel it is important that all of us develop our own ways of connecting with plants and their magic rather than just researching them. Today we use herbal magic in kitchen witchery, hearth and home magic to supplement our spells, rituals, and ceremonies. Plants can also be used to heal the spirit. I use herbs in magic in many different forms. I use them as incense blends, sprays and spritzers, as anointing oils to enhance dreams and psychic awareness, in baths for clearing and protection, in spells, in charms, and as steams. Let's jump into some of the forms that I use. I use incense on a daily basis, depending on what I need that day. The most common kind of incense that I use is something that will clear or protect or shift energy in myself or in the room. I like to harvest herbs myself, but most of the herbs I work with can easily be found at local stores or online. This is my basic clearing blend that I use the most often. Rosemary for clearing, protection, and robust health. It clears out all kinds of energy, physical as well as energetic. Lavender for clearing and calming anxiety, sadness, and grief. It's generally a calming herb, and it also helps clear physical energy out of the house. And blue vervain if I have it. I use blue vervain for getting rid of really serious magical energy that I don't want around. That can be spirits that are hanging out in your house, or an ill-wishing that someone sent you intentionally or unintentionally. It is one of the strongest non-toxic protective herbs I know. Another one that I use frequently is expansion or invoking incense. And I use some variation of this whenever I want to call some energy in to help nurture and expand a project I'm working on. So that can be anything from abundance, health, a magical project. I like to use oak leaves or oak bark finely powdered. Oak bark is a very expansive herb. It's a strong tree that gives shelter and food to entire ecosystems. I use it for many expansive types of magic like luck and health and prosperity. Marjoram or oregano for protection, strength, connection to deity, and for drawing happiness. cinnamon for joyousness and a little extra protection on my work, and to call on and honor any spirits who are helping me with my magic. It also adds some fire and spark to help transform any working. Clarity blend. I use this whenever I am needing to stay focused on a project, or when I'm doing any kind of magic around picking between two options or two choices. I start with mint for focusing and clearing the mind, and physically clearing anything out of your body that's making you feel unfocused. Rosemary to enhance circulation to the brain, to help access memory, and to clear anything that stands in your way. And clary sage for clear vision on all levels. For self-love and self-worth, I use hawthorn berries to nurture the heart and mother yourself on the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual planes. I also like to add violets for easing the heart. And I will also add lady's mantle if finding your life's purpose is part of what's going on with self-worth. Or I might add blue vervain to this incense blend if you are very empathic and part of what's going on is you're just picking up on other people's emotions and carrying them around. Unless you add essential oils or resins or gums like pine or sandalwood to your blends, they will mostly end up smelling like burning leaves. So if you want something more fragrant than that, you might try using these blends in a steam in your house instead. I just put the herbs in a pot. Initially, I bring it up to a simmer and then turn it down so that it's just barely steaming, and keep it going for several hours. I also feel like using water instead of fire makes the blend more active on the emotional and intuitive levels, because water is associated with those parts of yourself, whereas fire is quick and transformative. Just make sure you keep plenty of water in the pot. It boils away or even just steams away really quickly. All of these blends can also be used as teas in baths or as rinses for showers. You can use them as tea and use them in spray bottles or spritzers. You can put them in a charm bag and carry them with you. You can place them on your altar or carry them on your person. If you want to see an example of some of the ways that I incorporate herbal magic into a spell, I have a spell that's open to the public on my Patreon page, and I'll put a link in the description below so you can check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Working with plants magically and getting good results is heavily dependent upon your relationship and connection to the plant involved. Gratitude and reciprocity is also important, and telling the plant what you're using it for is very helpful, since many of them are very multi-layered, and it's also just respectful. One of the ways that I recommend getting started is to just work with 5 to 10 herbs that are multi-layered, multi-purpose, that you can always have on hand and easily use without a lot of preparation. I'd recommend any of the herbs I mentioned in the blends, but I'm also going to talk about a few more and their magical properties. Birch for clearing, birth, and rebirth. I use the bark, but you can also use the leaves. I also use it for bringing the energy of the stars down into the earth and connecting above and below, connecting the stars to the mycelial net. If getting tree bark seems daunting to you, you can always gather really small twigs in the spring. Humans love roses, and mostly they get used for love magic, whether that's self-love, drawing love, or devotional love to a deity. If you're going to use roses in any kind of a bath or a tea or a rinse, it's very important to make sure that you get organically grown roses. The roses that are just grown in landscapes have some very nasty chemicals on them. Agrimony leaf is a bit harder to find, but it does grow very easily in semi-shade in most yards. It's strongly protective and repels any unwanted attention that is sent at you and returns it to the sender. It is good tied in bundles for protection or carried on your person. Like many herbs, the physical uses of calendula flowers are very similar to the magical uses. I use it magically whenever I want to bring strength or healing to the skin or muscles. It can be used in any magic involving the sun, or for any summer rituals, or for casting the circle for protection of boundaries. And of course, one of my favorites is mugwort. I use it as a dream enhancer and a psychic opener. I use the leaf, burning it, or in steams. Herbal magic is a wonderful way to boost the power of your witchcraft. If you are a beginner, it helps carry the load magically so you don't have to be quite as focused. And if you are advanced, it adds a deeper complexity and a richer experience to your workings. For those of you who live near the Pacific Northwest, I am teaching a whole weekend workshop this summer on plant communication and plant magic. I'll put a link to it in the description below if you haven't already checked out my website. And for those of you who've been asking, I am still working on an online, on-demand herbal magic program. It's just taking a really long time. It's a big project. I'm hoping for it to come out in 2024. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I'd really appreciate you hitting the like, the subscribe, and maybe even the notification bell. Check out my Patreon page for monthly offerings starting at $5 a month. And I hope you're enjoying this time of year. Stay safe and be well.